So guys, welcome to my blog. I am Arbelo D. Triambulo, a student in St. Michael's College, taking the course of Bachelor of Science in Business Accountancy, major in marketing. I was wearing a mask for the protection because I am in my cousin's house to help me with my blog, and this is what we will go into discuss all about in this blog of mine, the 1986 Philippine EDSA Revolution. Okay. So let's begin with the introduction. What is EDSA Revolution and what happened in EDSA during the revolution? So, what is EDSA Revolution? The People Power Revolution was a series of popular demonstration in the Philippines, mostly in Metro Manila. The 4-day event from February 22 to 25 will forever be etched in history as the bloodless revolution which culminated with the end of a dictatorship that was also marked by human rights violation. So this means that this is this revolution was not a violent one, and cumulated means it's on the top of the story, which is mean will going to end the dictatorialship of Marcos regime for 21 years. And next was what happened in the EDSA during the revolution. The 1986 EDSA People Power Revolution gathered millions of Filipino from all walks of life to march along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, the abbreviation of EDSA, the main artery of Metro Manila, to end the dictatorship of President Ferdinand E. Marcos and begin a new era marked by true freedom and democracy. It is also referred to as the Yellow Revolution. Makati neighborhood had a protest rally, and when it did, September 16, Friday afternoon, it was the biggest ever, complete with ticker tape raining down on Alaya and Paseo de Rojas Avenue. Yellow confetti was ingeniously made out of telephone directory books and cast down by the hundreds by employers from any one of the high-rise buildings along Raleigh Route. Without further ado, let's introduce the key players in the 1986 People Power Revolution. So let's start. Corazon Aquino. Corazon Aquino, a self-proclaimed housewife, became a prominent figure of the opposition after the death in 1983 of her husband, also the staunchest critic of Marcos, Benigno Aquino Jr. Her loss in the presidential snap election against Marcos 1986 was widely believed to have been attended by fraud, sparkling a people power revolution. The 4-day uprising ended with her taking her oath as the 11th president of the Philippines. So, even though he win, there's so much problem that even the media said that he was only a housewife. How can you be a leader of a nation? Ferdinand Marcos. Ferdinand Marcos held on the presidency from 1965 until the uprising forced him and his family to leave the country in 1986. His two-decade rule saw the imposition of martial law and various human rights abuses, especially against those who critique the government. As disdain for his administration grew, Marcos called for a snap election 1985 with Arturo Tolentino as his running mate in 1986. He won but faced allegation of tampered resort to favor him over the opposition bet Corazon Aquino. He, however, maintained that he had won a fourth term amid the growing support of the opposition and defecting government official as reflected during the People Power Revolution. In February 25, Marcos took oath as president in Malacanang Palace, but together with his family and close allies fled to Hawaii with the help of United States authorities later that day. Fabian Beer Fabian Beer was a AFP chief under Marcos and was accused of masterminding the assassination of Benigno Aquino Jr. He, together with other soldiers implicated by the fact-finding commission, was acquitted in 1985, a non-strong ally of the dictator who obtained clash with Enrile and Ramos. Beer stood with Marcos throughout the non-violent revolution from February 22 to 25. Bongbong Marcos continually urged the president to blow up rebel camps. Loyal until the end, Beer and his family feud with the Marcoses and other colonies up to Hawaii as Marcos' 21-year rule came to an end. He did not return to the Philippines as Ramos and Aquino considered him as a threat to national. Juan Ponce Enrile is regarded as the architect and implementer of martial law as defense minister under Marcos. But after the 1986 snap election, he, together with them, Lieutenant General Fidel Ramos, publicly declared withdrawal of support for Marcos. Fidel B. Ramos was the AFP vice chief and also the Philippine Constabulary chief under the Marcos administration. In February 1986, he resigned and withdrew support from the government to support the rebel soldiers. He and Enrile were called out radio by Marcos, who asked them to stop this stupidity. He was appointed AFP Chief of Staff and later National Defense Secretary under Aquino administration, defending it against several coup attempts. Reform the Armed Forces Movement. The Reform the Armed Forces Movement (RAM) was formed in 1982 by junior military officers who were against corruption and cronyism in the AFP. The movement was also considered an important player in revolt against the Marcos dictatorship. RAM helped Enrile plan a mutiny but was later foiled. It was then when Enrile enlisted the help of Ramos. When Enrile enlisted the help of Ramos, among the members of RAM were Enrile aide de camp at that time, Gregorio Gringo Honasan II, and Lieutenant Colonel Eduardo Red Katipunan. Jaime Cardinal Sin. The late Jaime Cardinal Sin was instrumental in rallying thousands of Filipinos to flock to EDSA during the people revolts against the Marcos dictatorship. On February 22, the Manila Archbishop rallied people to support Ramos, Enrile, and other rebel soldiers. He aired his plea for food and other aid over Radio Veritas, the Catholic Church's own radio station, which broadcast development in the uprising against Marcos in February 1986. His plea came to after his conversation with Enrile regarding his plan and the Cardinal Bishop Conference and of the Philippine condemnation of the fraudulent snap election. Salvador P. Laurel. Salvador P. Laurel was a leader of United National Democratic Organization, UNIDO, the primary opposition party during the Marcos administration. Despite him being named as the party's presidential candidate, Laurel stepped aside and gave way to Aquino. He joined her campaign as vice presidential candidate. They both lost, however, in a fraud-made snap election, which eventually led the People Power Revolution. Arturo Tolentino. Arturo Tolentino was vice presidential running mate during the 1986 snap election against Aquino and Laurel. He won, but the result was suspect. Tolentino later launched a co-op stating that he was constitutionally an acting president, and together with Marcos allies, barricaded the Manila Hotel on July 8, 1986. He, however, did not get the huge support he was expecting and individually despaired the crowd 2 days after. Arturo Tolentino. Arturo Tolentino was Marcos' vice presidential running mate during the 1986 snap election. Against Aquino and Laurel, he won, but the results were suspect. To get Tolentino later launched a co-op stating that he was constitutionally the acting president, and together with Marcos allies, he barricaded the Manila Hotel on July 8, 1986. He, however, did not get the huge support he was expecting and eventually despaired the crowd to the Bishop Soc Villegas, aide to Cardinal Sin in 1986. According to Bishop Soc Villegas, there was no way that social scientists, political scientists could explain what really happened at EDSA. The only fitting conclusion was that it was an intervention by God to think that military tanks manned by soldiers trained to kill stopped when people waved their rosaries and gave them flowers and gave them food. The only way to explain it is the grace of God at the work in human hearts. The 1986 People Power Revolution was an event that left a legacy to the world. Taiwan and South Korea put for their democracy in 1987. The Tiananmen Square massacre at China in 1989 reflected the major event that happened during the 1986 People Power Revolution. Recently, the Arab Spring took place as the nation craved democracy. The Philippines is still going through their processes of reforming the nation in the political, economic, and social sector. The Filipinos hope that their nation will industrialize more. Not only did the revolution overthrow a corrupt leader, but it also proved that the world that a nation like the Philippines could fight for democracy and create its own turning point in its history.